think that was an important point that came up. On the issue of equity of teachers allocation, I think that was also quite an important issue to raise about the availability of classrooms being a factor. Sometimes when we think about deployment, we have to think about it beyond simply the number of teachers per school, but also
bus conductors to say, what are you doing in that uniform? That's not your school. And he insisted, yes, it's his school. While the bus conductor is talking to him, another of the persons in the bus park was taking his picture, and that was given to the Dean of Discipline, who was able now to intervene early and address the issue. So here we have a situation where the school, every single member of the school family, as well as external interest stakeholders are also involved. Now, this framework allows you to look at the academic challenges as well as the psychosocial support challenges. We went a step further. We now recognize it's more than enough. We need more than just identifying the challenges. We need now to get a system of persons ready. So right now it's actually at stakeholder consultation level, but what we have now is the service providers, people in public hospitals and clinics, private practitioners, non-government organizations. They are now going to be organized. We have 6 education regions organized in the regions to deliver services to children. Further to that, we recognize that not just teachers, but the adults within the school setting, they do have mental health, physical health, different socioeconomic challenges. So we need also to put in a staff welfare service for them. So by so doing, we are looking at all angles, all the different variables that are impacting education, recognizing that it's the whole education is about the whole person, not mainly about teaching, setting exams, and developing strategies and techniques for teach children to pass exams. It's much bigger than that.
Thank you. Any more comments? Okay.
Thank you very much. We are now 38 years on. 38 years on education for all. And it is obvious that teachers have to be selected. I would like, coming out of this 2018 session, for us to set a target for our governments to take the top of the education system, those people who perform best in the education system, to become teachers. You always need the best to lead the rest. So if they can move 1% per year, because they have to pay them good salaries, they have to pay them competitive salaries, but it's going to come back to the economy in the end. Because when you take a teacher as a low performing student, and you're going to train that teacher to death, nothing is going to happen, because the teacher can't cope with it. When you take your best teachers, the top of your system, which is what happened in old Jamaica, because those ex-slaves couldn't get into the white people's schools. So they were the best people. And you find that the product of the education system was different. You need the best teachers. And if we say even 1% a year, if we did 1% a year for the last 38 years, we would at least have 38% of our teachers as high-performing people. We talk about Finland, but Finland teachers are high performers. Yes? And so we go and we visit Finland, but we can't bring home anything. All right? That's a fact of life. So we're saying, look at your education system. Give scholarships to become teachers. Give incentives to the highest performers to become teachers, because while it costs you now, it's an investment now. The tomorrow is going to be better. But if we are going to continue with the people who decide to take teaching as last chance, you can't make it. We can't make it. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot make another 38 years or another 40 years. Let us take the kinds of decisions that will change for the next generation of children. I'm appealing to you. Get 1%. Put in our document that we are putting out now, even if we start 1% at a time, 2%, then we will get there with the quality teachers that we want. Thank you.
We still have some time, so yes.
Hi, my name is Joanna Herrett. I'm with UNESCO. And following from what you just said, I was actually in a different session this morning, so it's great to hear the reflections this afternoon. The session on quality teaching and learning, and exactly that model was presented by the presenter from Singapore, taking the national, so the policy for teacher education is the proportion, the highest achieving learners are the ones that are selected to be teachers. And the reason that's possible is because of the work that's gone into creating the notion of teaching as one of the most respected professions in the country. So, and the example in Singapore and in Finland, the same, the sense that the duty of teaching is the responsibility of developing one's nation, and so you're able to put those policies in place in the same way that you would for the medical profession or legal profession and so on. So interesting to hear that that model, it does exist in one country and could potentially be replicated.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Gina Tizi, professor in the Faculty of Education, University of Quebec in Canada. I would like to thank all the presenters for their rich presentations, very moving, powerful. But I would like to thank especially Winsome for her powerful presentation. I like to hear about colonialism when we discuss about education. So for me, it's very important. But I understand from all those presentations that school doesn't serve well boys, school doesn't serve well disabled, nor rural or other kids. School doesn't serve most of the children. So who does the school serve? Is for, has been created for. In that sense, I would like to react specifically to Winsome's presentation about the situation of the boys in school. From my feminist perspective, and I do assume my feminist perspective, I worry Winsome when we consider the problem of boys at schools as a gender issue. Why? Because sexism about girls, about women, is so deeply anchored in not only our educational system, but it's systemic, it's political, it's cultural, it's religious, it's economic, everything. So despite their education, girls and women, they're going to face not only glass ceiling, but they're going to face gate ceiling. They're going to face door ceiling, what we call a triple glass effect that women and girls face in all the spheres of the society. According to that, for me, sex is different from gender. So I'm asking the problem of boys at school, is it really a gender problem? Meaning, is it due to the social construction of their gender, like it is for us, girls and women? Is it a gender issue, or is it a sexual issue, or another economic, social, cultural issue?
Good. You've made it harder for us. It's good. Yes.
I think we can see, as we know, gender intersects with everything, including where you can hope to be in the economy. And your gender chances are affected by your family positioning in society too. So the bottom boys and the bottom girls, in terms of the level of poverty, will face the least possibilities and the likely worst outcomes. So gender is always at work. But what I can see is we aren't naming well the intersection of our well-being and cultural problems with our learning problems. So for example, there's this huge investment in researching the role that gender norms play out in our everyday lives, including our learning, including the rates of violence. And we haven't named very well how masculinity in some cultures, when you're on the bottom, leave you no chances, no hope for a future. So in the same culture, the high-achieving boys may belong to the wealthiest families who do believe that if they learn, they will have a good job in the future. But if your father never had a good job or no job at all, why would you believe education will give you that chance? So I think we have to take and turn from the research that's done around rates of gender-based violence. We know, so for example, in my country, 95% of all acts of violence are by men, but most of them are upon other men. We don't count acts of violence against other men as gendered, but they are. So while we're currently working on decreasing violence against women and girls, we should also be working on decreasing violence of men upon men and boys upon boys. And the reason why that's so important, and we know from the research around the safe and supportive school environment, if the school is not a safe and encouraging place, the people who do least well there are the ones who already came in disadvantaged. So if we can work with that evidence, then I think that's one reason why the school-wide positive behaviour management works, because it works to produce positive social behaviour between children. So they respect each other, they respect their teachers, and all that time we waste on discipline is used for learning. So gender intersects with everything in education, and it most pronouncedly intersects on the life chances of the poorest girls and the poorest boys. So that's where our equity focus, as soon as we disaggregate our data, we'll see it's the poorest girls who have the babies under 16 years. It's the poorest boys who father early, but maybe without responsibility. It's the poorest boys who receive the most violence, who give the most violence in some countries. So we need to have a gender lens on all of our education data, from the teachers and the principals through to the students. And the gender lens can never travel without the economic lens as well. Otherwise, we're not talking about equity.
Thank you. Several hands up. Okay, I'll go. No, I think you haven't spoken.
As you wish. Just to follow up on the previous two comments, I just wanted to say that it is important that we consider the research that is out there. Oh, my name is Carlos Vargas, and I'm with the UNESCO Regional Office for Education in Latin America and the Caribbean. So I was going to say that there's a lot of research that has been done around intersectionality. That is, the way the different forms of disadvantage intersect and actually reinforce one another. So there's a lot of research about cumulative disadvantage, and precisely what the person who spoke before me mentioned. But when it comes to education, this research on intersectionality is used so as to address pedagogically the differences, as to accommodate, as to make changes, but seldom do we question what are the sources of disadvantage, which I think is something that we need to really bring to bring to the table, which is, if we really identify what are the sources of disadvantage, then we can look at the challenges affecting the education system that come from other systems that have to do with social development, with human development, with gender equality, with housing, with health, with many other sectors. So I would say that in terms of addressing and trying to make education more egalitarian and inclusive, it is important to look at the root causes of disadvantage and to address them. So it is not only within the classroom, it is not only at school or within the education system, but it is, let's say, a combination of factors, of agendas, of programs that need to work together to actually address the root causes of disadvantage. So issues that have to do with poverty, with redistribution, but as well with representation of groups that are usually marginalized from decision-making processes. So there's quite a large agenda to do, but I think we could begin in our every local environments and settings by identifying what are those root causes so that the action, at least public action and government action, is coordinated, not only at the education system, but with other agendas and ministries.
Just to add something to your question or comment, which somebody from Jamaica will be able to say a lot more about, I just wonder if venture to suggest that maybe, although it's not the case that men are a subjugated group generally in Jamaica, and they are not in any way disadvantaged by the general power relations in society in the country, nor necessarily are boys discriminated against in the education system, but they do perform less well. So you could say that boys are disadvantaged, but they are not discriminated against in the sense that you don't have gender discrimination, and I think that's what you're referring to.
I'm going to say something that I am sure you're not going to forget. That, you know, men are different from women. Men are different from women. And if you look at the animal kingdom, there's no male that is subservient. You just have to look at the peacock and the turkeys and the lion and how the lion struts. We are animals, and we're different from women. Men are different from women. All right, having said that, in Jamaica, you're right. There's no discrimination. You're right too. The male situation in Jamaica is very complex. It's very complex. The men emerged from the slavery differently. They were the providers. They were tradesmen. They provided for their families. They were farmers. Now, if the education system took on who the men were, then they would have progressed in the system. But it took on who the women were. They were the ones who were reading, and they go to school, and they do their arithmetic and what have you, and the system took on their behavior. And gradually, the trades of the men disappeared as we advanced. The trades of the men disappeared, and so they couldn't find themselves in the school system. Now we have recognized that. We are progressively bringing back trades that interest the men and the approaches that interest the men. In old Jamaica too, if the father died, the boys were taken out of school. All the boys. The girls were kept in school. They were kept in school there to be protected. They must be exposed to any unfortunate situation or whatever. And the boys had to go out and look for work to maintain the family. So we have come up like that. Now, it has taken us a long time to recognize that the school system actually excluded male in the way we delivered education, the way we practice education. We recognize they weren't performing, but why not? It's not more punishment. They just come to school, they're there. They come to school. But at the end of the day, they're not engaged with learning. So now we have changed the curriculum, and this curriculum is supposed to be more meaningful. And of course, we are encouraging the boys to think differently too. So, because we still have some targets that we want all our children to meet. It is that complexity that we have to deal with. Plus the fact that the boys can make money quick quick cash. A boy can step around the corner, make something, sell it, or buy something, sell it. They're traders. They're hustlers. Whereas the women stay in school. And their analysis, I didn't get a chance to tell you all that, but their analysis is that the girls stay in school, they become teachers, nurses, and the boys stay out of school. They become mechanics, electricians, and they earn more than the girls in the end. They're entrepreneurs. So all those, it's quite complex. But we are working on different dimensions of it, because crime is a driving force for change. When it gets to the stage that it is, then it will be recognized that you're spending more on crime than you do on education. Only 5% of our women are in prison. 5%. 95% of our boys. 95% of the prison population. I've said that wrong. 95% of the prison population is male or are males. It's not my first language. And the other 5% women in prisons.
Thank you. Have a minute?
Less than that, yes. Thank you, Winsome, for your answer. But I would like all of us to be aware of some, maybe not here in Jamaica, but everywhere, some masculinist discourses who are making a link between problems faced by boys in school with the omnipresence of women in school. Can you imagine that women are becoming the problem for boys schooling? This doesn't make any sense. That's why I was touched by you.
Thank you. We are really running out of time, but I wanted to give one of our colleagues who has an example, who wants to, he says it takes about 2-3 minutes to project for us to look at, and he makes a few comments about that. So I would, if you're ready, you can do that. But just before you do that, I think just one point, because after his submission, we would bring the proceedings to a close. Even though we are talking about, a lot of our discussions also has talked about some of the issues about learning and identity, I think it's important when we relate it to teachers, because the next generation of teachers are going to come from these people we are talking about and the kind of education they get. So I think we need to think in terms of the pool of people who are going to become teachers and their identities and their predispositions. And all of those things are important, because where are the teachers going to come from? And so the things we are talking about, I think, are very important in terms of looking at who the teachers are and how they can become the change agents once they've had the proper kind of education. So I would ask my colleague to present.
Gracias. Ahora sí vamos a necesitar los traductores. Decíamos con el compañero, solo somos 2 que usamos traductor porque no hablamos inglés. Deberíamos hacer más. Primero quisiera decirles a ustedes que les mando un saludo a mi presidente, Macho Juan Díaz de la Torre. Y este es el video.
Esta es una escuela de educación indígena. Hay niños que hacen aproximadamente de 5 a 6 horas caminando para llegar a la escuela de la comunidad.
Rochi. Buenas. Oteguishan de. Oteguishan de es buenas tardes.
¿Esta? ¿Y aquí? ¿Aquí? tema ya ciencias naturales de Tanania.
A mí me gusta porque tenía un abuelito que por sí hablaba náhuatl. Me enseñaron desde cuando yo tenía 4 años. Desde que era niña yo me enseñaron.
Que no se les olvide lo que hay, el costumbre acá en este pueblo. Se siente dichoso porque practica tanto el español como la lengua materna.
A mí lo que me gusta de mi escuela es cómo enseñan, me gusta estudiar. Me siento muy feliz que los maestros enseñen eso, de los que nuestros antepasados antes lo platicaban.
¿Qué te dijeron a ti, Vicente?
¿Quién hizo este dibujo?
Esta es la ficha que
Mis abuelos.
Ahí está, mi hermana.
¿A quién le gusta leer?
Aman mesta po witi tepiti.
Y eso es lo que les vamos a contar al mundo. Un análisis que es bastante singular, que es muy pionero, que es la primera vez que se hace desde México para el mundo.
El multilingüismo es parte de nuestra nación. Reconocernos es condición para iniciar el diálogo intercultural, hacer que las cosas sucedan, porque vale la pena hacerlo.
Muchas gracias. Esto es lo que estamos haciendo desde el Sindicato Nacional de Trabajadores de la Educación. Escuchándoles a ustedes me lleno de contradicciones, porque somos un sindicato que está obligado a la defensa del derecho de los trabajadores y también al estímulo económico al que tienen derecho. Pero al final de cuentas, nuestra obligación como trabajadores de la educación nos obliga a acercarle herramientas a los maestros. Y les pongo en el contexto. ¿Qué estamos haciendo? Quien les habla ocupa el cargo de coordinador nacional para la paridad, equidad e inclusión del Sindicato Nacional de Trabajadores de la Educación, motivo por el cual estamos aquí. La estadística que tenemos en México nos dice que tenemos a más de 1.200.000 alumnos indígenas que son atendidos por cerca de 60.000 maestros en 24 entidades federativas. México se compone de 32 entidades federativas, 32 estados, en el cual tenemos presencia y estamos en un espacio más estructurado. Sabemos en dónde están los maestros, cuántos son, cuántos alumnos tienen, qué lengua hablan. Y tenemos 68 lenguas vivas. De las 68 lenguas vivas, 20 están en peligro de extinción. De las 68 lenguas vivas tenemos 364 variantes. Eso nos obligó a esta actividad y buscar un convenio con la UNESCO y poder construir un material que nos permitiera acercar el servicio a los alumnos. La ley en México establece la obligación de enseñar a leer y escribir a los niños indígenas en su lengua y el español como segunda lengua. Pero hoy estamos encontrando a muchos maestros, el 60% de los maestros no hablan ninguna lengua indígena y el 20% habla una lengua indígena diferente a donde él nació y trabaja. O sea, tenemos nada más el 20% atendiendo al 100% la necesidad educativa. Eso nos llevó a construir algo que le facilitara acompañamiento pedagógico a los maestros, que pudieran tener también la suficiente facilidad para un mejor desempeño en el aula. Hoy les queremos decir que tenemos a 100 tutores virtuales certificados por la Universidad de Oviedo en España. Son compañeros que están tutorando a otros maestros en las características que hoy el doctor Tao decía, se escucha y se ve estupendo, formidable. Pero ¿qué hacemos cuando en las comunidades indígenas no tenemos conectividad? Cuando no tenemos acceso a computadoras, y a pesar de esto, maestras y maestros indígenas están tutorando en cibercafés, en espacios donde lo pueden hacer a costa de su peculio. ¿Y qué les estamos dando a través de esto? ¿Qué hicimos con lo que es esta guía? La construimos bajo 3 características. Ubicamos en el país 3 estados que tuvieran características diferentes. Hablo del primero, que es Chiapas, donde en el estado se hablan 12 lenguas diferentes y otras tantas variantes. Hablamos de San Luis Potosí, un estado donde se hablan 2 lenguas, una en peligro de extinción, por eso fuimos también al estudio. Y por último, en Baja California, donde tenemos concentrada la migración de adentro. Muchos niños indígenas han migrado a esos lugares. San Quintín es el lugar más grande y donde podemos encontrar el ejemplo más vivo de ello. Pero también encontramos población del extranjero que llegó y se quedó, no pudo lograr la aspiración y ahí quedó. Por eso nos ubicamos en esos 3 contextos. Decía la doctora Sanz en ese convenio de colaboración que firmamos con la UNESCO en México, ¿qué enfoque le vamos a dar a este estudio? Algo que sea diferente, y lo construimos desde el enfoque antropológico, acompañado de pedagogos, acompañado de los propios maestros. Se hizo una consulta en los pueblos, habló con los gobernadores de los pueblos, con los dirigentes de los pueblos, para que nos permitieran entrar ahí y hacer la tarea y construir algo que le facilitara a los maestros tener mejor atención para los hijos de los propios habitantes. De ahí surge esta guía. Esta guía se llama Estrategias Didácticas, Guía para Docentes de Educación Indígena. Pero en el camino fuimos encontrando que quienes han accedido a este insumo no solamente son maestros de educación indígena, también son maestros de educación regular, también maestros de educación indígena que no hablan ninguna lengua, y eso nos ha permitido, desde algunas fichas que aparecen en el documento que tenemos, que está en línea, es público, es para todos los que puedan tener acceso a él, les vamos a dar después la dirección de cómo poder llegar a él. Esta herramienta ha facilitado a los maestros a un mejor desempeño en el aula, a que puedan interactuar con mayor facilidad con los propios alumnos desde la cosmovisión de los alumnos y de los pueblos indígenas, como también aquí se ha hablado, porque no es únicamente la didáctica, también lo que viven en el día a día, cómo mantener su identidad, cómo mantener su lengua, su cultura, su arte. Y en los ejemplos que ponemos allá de las fichas, hablamos del árbol, cómo se construye una enseñanza a través del árbol, a través del cuerpo, a través del medio ambiente. Y esto es lo que nos ha permitido generar más atracción hacia quienes lo escuchan. Este documento lo presentamos el año pasado, en el mes de junio, en París, en el Museo del Hombre, donde pudimos darlo a conocer al mundo. Y hoy estamos yendo a todos los espacios donde lo podemos hacer para darlo a conocer y ponerlo al servicio de quien en su contexto también pueda hacer uso del mismo documento. Con esto les queremos decir que no es únicamente en lenguas indígenas, también en las diferentes lenguas. Estamos construyendo la posibilidad de transcribirlo al inglés y al francés. Lo hemos hablado con la UNESCO igual y esperamos poder conseguir este objetivo para que sea más accesible al consumo de todos los que tenemos esta aspiración. Y por último decirles, ¿qué hacemos en el tema de la inclusión? ¿Qué estamos haciendo? ¿Qué le ofrecemos a los maestros que no son de educación indígena? En México somos 1.200.000 docentes y cerca de 800.000 jubilados, cerca de 2 millones de trabajadores de la educación. ¿Qué estamos haciendo con ellos? Generar también una oferta pedagógica. Hoy tenemos un sistema nacional para el Desarrollo Profesional, el SINADEP, que es una plataforma virtual que atiende a maestros que van a ingresar al servicio educativo. Porque hoy en México, para adquirir una plaza, tiene que ser a través de un examen de oposición, ganarse la plaza. Los preparamos sin ser agremiados para entrar a la competencia. Atendemos a maestros en servicio que son convocados por ley, por obligación a que se evalúen. Y también atendemos a maestros en servicio que quieren aspirar a ascender a una plaza directiva. Estas son las 3 características. ¿Y qué les estamos dando? Firmamos un convenio de colaboración con la OEI para poder certificar a los maestros a través de la Universidad de Oviedo en España. Tenemos a más de 3.500 maestros certificados, que son quienes le dan acompañamiento pedagógico a quienes aspiran a estos 3 conceptos que les decía, sin ningún costo, sin ningún salario. Porque bien decían aquí a su momento, ¿qué necesitamos para motivar a los maestros? En México, en algún momento la vocación era elemental para poder acceder, porque venía de familia o de papá, de mamá, de alguien cercano, y entraba con todo el entusiasmo. También logramos desde el sindicato incentivos para que pudieran estar en su comunidad. En el momento que salieran, pues perdían el incentivo. Y hoy estamos encontrando ese fenómeno nuevamente, porque dice, ya me preparé, ya me formé, yo no quiero estar aquí, yo me quiero ir a la ciudad. Yo quiero estar cómodo, quiero estar a gusto, quiero disfrutar de algunos espacios que no tengo ahí. Es un fenómeno que estaremos buscando cómo concluir con ello. Entonces, decirles por último, que para nosotros el SINADEP estamos ofreciendo cursos, talleres, maestrías, doctorado, totalmente gratuito. Una plataforma que hoy es una oferta pedagógica de la autoridad educativa, de la Secretaría de Educación Pública o de los Ministerios de Educación, como ustedes lo conocen. Y eso ha permitido que más de 600,000 maestros hayan accesado a este servicio y a este acompañamiento. Con esto les decimos, atendemos el tema indígena, atendemos la inclusión, atendemos a la generalidad de los maestros y está al alcance de ustedes en la página www.cente.org.mx. Ahí podrán encontrar todo esto de lo que les estamos hablando. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting example. Our time is up, and so I want to thank you all for your participation, your contributions. It's been very, very good, and we will come back here, I think, at 4 o'clock, and we'll try and wrap up, try to draw together some of the main recommendations and issues that have emerged from our discussion. And so it would be good if you came back and continued with the discussion, and at least to begin to listen to note some of the things we're putting down. Thank you so much for your time. See you later.